Well, as I mentioned at the beginning of the service, we honor today Francis, the medieval saint who gave up city life to live in kinship with wolves, birds, and other beasts in the forest. On his feast day, we celebrate the animals that we love and live with as well, and rightly so. Pets are not just the most obvious and emotionally rewarding link we have to the natural world. They are often genuine members of our families, playmates, exercise buddies, loyal and loving friends, comforters, and protectors. No wonder we want to bring them into church to bless them back. It's important to note, though, that it was not pets per se, but wild creatures that Francis communed with as he left behind a life of comfort to make a home in their natural habitat. As is so often true of our calling as Christians, he found this connection to the wild by going out to encounter it on its own turf and terms. He understood that he was part of God's creation, not separate from other animals, but intimately related to them, which is why he referred to them as brothers and sisters. So I feel it might dishonor Francis not to bring up this past week's news from the World Wildlife Fund's Living Planet Index. From 1970 to 2018, the vertebrate species that scientists are able to count worldwide have experienced an average 69% decrease in population. 69%. That's an average loss of more than 2/3 of a species population in less than 50 years. The cause? Agriculture, fishing, climate change. Friends, how did we get here? I recently finished reading a book by the primatologist Frans de Waal, reporting what researchers are learning about the emotional life of animals, apes in particular, but also birds, rodents, sea creatures, even shellfish. De Waal notes that Western science has for centuries taken a mechanistic view of other living beings, as if they were merely machines that input stimuli and output behaviors, as if only humans experience fear, joy, loss, love, a past and a future, an awareness of self and other. De Waal musters study after study that indicates this is not the case. We now know of animals that comfort one another, make friendships, demonstrate a sense of fairness, act with altruism, grieve, project themselves into the future, display awareness of others' subjectivity, and show all the qualities science used to think belonged only to humans. We are part of the animal world, he insists, not separate from it. Then de Waal offers a devastating analysis of why science has been so slow to accept this truth. Behind the debate about animal consciousness, he writes, lurks an issue that many scientists would rather avoid: what humanity does to animals. Clearly, we don't treat them well, at least not most of them. It's easier for us to live with this fact by simply assuming that animals are dumb automatons devoid of feelings and awareness, as science has done for a long time. If animals are like rocks, we can throw them onto a heap and stomp on them. If they're not, however, we have a serious moral dilemma on our hands. End quote. Indeed, we do. And let me say here that I am not a science hater. I have a deep respect for scientific inquiry and all it has enabled us to understand and achieve. Moreover, the misperception that humans are some kind of exception to the rest of the animal kingdom is hardly limited to science. The Bible gives us dominion, a word some scholars suggest might be better translated as stewardship over other creatures. Still, I can't help but point out that way back in the 13th century, St. Francis found a wisdom that it has taken the scientific mainstream many centuries to come around to. Birds, beasts, creatures of the natural world, they are our family. We other them at our peril. We deny them subjectivity and emotion and social bonds and a right to share the planet with us at the risk of destruction for all. If we hope to last on this fragile earth, we must recognize their interdependence with us. Look, I don't want to throw a wet blanket over today's fun with our furry friends. I cherish my dog too. But St. Francis' example compels me not to step over this reality that would surely concern him greatly. Maybe we need a new acronym to add to the old one. Wwsfd. What would St. Francis do? Would he chain himself to old growth trees? Would he join indigenous people in Brazil, risking their lives in a lopsided fight to take on illegal rainforest mining and logging? Would he be among current ethicists calling for a bill of animal rights? Would he preach veganism in light of another stunning fact I recently read, that almost 3/4 of the entire terrestrial vertebrate biomass on Earth are livestock? Almost 3/4. And by the way, another quarter are humans. Only 3% are wild animals. We all have to find our own way to answer this challenge of our time. On this feast of St. Francis, I encourage us to pray and learn and think about how to respond to these issues. Giving up meat that comes from factory farms, which are both cruel and environmentally toxic, would be one possible first step. Or maybe shifting to a more plant-based diet more of the time, which is a change I'm starting to make myself. Or supporting environmental organizations and policies. Any move we can make toward kinder treatment and more responsible stewardship of the natural world in honor of Francis and our pets and all of God's good earth is a good thing. I'd like to close with a poem that speaks to this truth that we are part of creation and by virtue of our numbers, now also stewards of creation, as Genesis prophesied. It's called No Wind, No Rain by Jane Hirschfield. No wind, no rain. The tree just fell as a piece of fruit does. But no, not fruit, not ripe, not fell. It broke. It shattered. One cone's addition of resinous cell sap, one small-bodied bird arriving to tap for a beetle. It shattered. What word, what act was it we thought did not matter? Amen.